Hello. Hello, everyone. You remember, or did you see the Kamala? Good evening. Good evening. Good evening, everyone. Let me just see here. I've got my food cam ready to go. I'll give a couple minutes in case anyone's coming on. Mic is muted. Wish I could get the sound off. Check one. Check one. Check one. Okay, I'm setting up my food cam. It's very precarious. All right, folks. Well, we are going to talk about property tax, the property tax measure tonight. Please post comments, ask questions, and if there's any technical difficulties like sound and so forth, please let me know that as well. I'm going to do a couple little technical things here right at the moment, and then we'll get right into it. We're going to talk about the measure. I'm really hoping that we'll have some people ask questions, concerns they have, legitimately have concerns, or things that they have heard that they're skeptical about claims made either for or against a measure. I'd like to talk about all those things. And for those who have joined me in the past, I'm going to make a little supper. I've got Blue Apron here tonight. Pork udon. Chili crisp pork udon, and this is a really easy one. So if you're joining to watch me inevitably make a huge mistake cooking, I think this is one I may be able to handle without making big mistakes. This is a really easy one, which gives us time to talk about all the details in the property tax measure. So here is my chili crisp pork udon. And so we like Blue Apron. It's fun to do. And for whatever reason, I get positive comments when I do these little suppers. So again, looking to see, I want to make sure that we've got people that can post comments. I believe so. All right, let me do my little technical thing. I will be right back. Okay, I think that's it. I will show you my cooking cam. Ooh. So, in case you don't know, Blue Apron is one of those services that will send you all of the ingredients and the instructions on how to make a meal. And we've got, for instance, seasoned black vinegar, soy glaze, chili crisp, soy sauce, East Asian style sauteed aromatics. And we've got udon noodles, spinach, and mushrooms. Oh, and pork. All right. So enough about that. Let's start talking about the measure. Again, anyone, if you can post a comment, I want to know that this is working. It's been a long time since I've done one of these. Let me know. So the measure. I think most everyone knows that it will be on the ballot in November. We did get enough signatures, and we needed 31,164. We turned in 41,000 and change, and about 35,000 some hundred were actually good signatures. All right, I've got a couple of comments. So it's working. It sounds good. And yep, see you and hear you. Thank you, ladies. All right. So that's great news. We made it to the ballot, and now it's really up to the voters of North Dakota. Voters of North Dakota are going to decide. And there's a lot of misinformation out there. Almost all of it is put out by members of Keep It Local, KIL, KILL. It's just an appropriate acronym because they are killing the thing that is most likely to really be legacy for future generations, something we can do in North Dakota, and they definitely are trying to kill it. So Keep It Local, very briefly, is a group of various organizations. Interestingly, it is the same name, same organization, the same chairman of that same organization, and essentially the same members. And they've got the same message. It's a message of fear. And what they are doing is telling people about how they're going to lose funding for X, Y, and Z. They change their messaging depending on what audience they talk to. If they're talking to anyone particularly concerned about schools, they say that, especially rural schools, they say rural schools are going to have to close. If they're talking to someone involved in healthcare, they say that Medicaid expansion is going to end. If they talk to people who are concerned about income tax and sales tax, they say that's going to be raised by the state. And it goes on and on and on. Everything, the sky is falling. And they rely on misinformation, repetition of that misinformation. And really, frankly, here I'll say there's a choice, right? There are, for many of these people that are leaders in the organization, there are only two possibilities. One, they are outright lying and they know it. Or two, they severely misunderstand the measure and what it does. Those are the only two options. Now, there are many other people that are out there that have heard what the opposition is saying, the presentations that they've given to the education associations, the school boards, the city commissions, the county commissions. They're repeating their message and people are hearing it. And so they have concerns and fears based on assuming that what these people are saying is accurate and the truth. And it's neither of those things. And then, of course, you've got the program that Michael Bell hosts on KFYR from 9 to 11, just total propaganda that, I hope you guys all know that he's paid for, right? I mean, the advertisers, the lobbyists paid KFYR to have him be the host. That's how he got started. He wasn't a radio host before. I mean, obvious if you would listened. And he's there to repeat propaganda, to manipulate people who are listening to that program, to repeat it over and over. If you are listeners to his program, you know that it's just repetition. And what he does is regurgitates what the special interest groups want him to say. So he's has been repeating endlessly being in favor of the CO2 pipeline. He's now repeating endlessly being opposed to property tax because that's what the special interests want. So, I mean, great. If you guys want to listen to that program, I just hope you keep in mind that this is a psyop. This is specifically an operation to manipulate you as the listener into becoming a compliant voter. Okay. It's amazing to me when you look from the outside at what they're doing. It's brilliant. I mean, wow, it's brilliant and it works. But the problem is it's because people don't, especially maybe in North Dakota, maybe in rural North Dakota, we like to believe that people are honest and straightforward and care. And so we have a tendency to believe what they say. Anyway, enough about that. All right. Let me turn down the music for a sec. I'm going to answer some questions and maybe we'll start supper. And for those of you who have just joined, we are going to be having chili crisp pork udon noodles. Very easy dish. It's only going to take, I think, about 15 minutes, which means that when I'm doing this, it'll probably take 45. All right. I'm going to take them in order. We're going to go down. Thoughts on Burgum's ideology on this measure? I did not. I still need to hear what Burgum has to say. So as far as the ideology, I may or may not be hitting what you are referring to. Number one, I know Burgum has been against it, and from day one, he has come out against it in the past, and he has had again, either an incredibly poor understanding, completely doesn't know what the measure does, or he was intentionally not telling the truth. What he was saying in the past was that you can't have the state be responsible for local spending and allow them to spend whatever they want and have the state pay for it. And that's true. He would be right if the measure actually did that, but the measure doesn't do that. And in fact, it's interesting. All of the opposition, the things they are saying and the fears that they have would be valid if the measure did actually what they say it does, which it doesn't. So that's why their fears aren't valid. So Burgum's thing was, and he's right. If one party is paying for the other's spending and there's no reins on the other's spending's going to go up because you have someone else paying for it. That's not going to work. And the reference I think he used a lot was someone picking up the check for somebody else's dinner. Well, then they'll if they know that, they're going to go and get lobsters and so forth. So he's wrong there. But then he came, let's see, recently. I'm trying to remember what he's been saying recently. If someone remembers, just put it in the comments. I'll come back to Burgum. Someone post what Burgum is saying now. It's escaping me for the moment. Okay. I know it's been explained, but how will volunteer fire not be affected since they go off mills? Justin, that's a very good question. Wait, I think I can post. Yeah, I'm sorry. I can post these questions. Okay. Justin, you are exactly right. And this is a known situation. It's not a problem in the measure. And it's the same for rural fire, rural ambulance, and townships. Okay, we know this. Those three entities are limited to raising revenue only by placing mill levies. So ad valorem property tax. So they're limited on how much? 18 mills for townships. I don't know exactly how many for rural fire. But the reason they have that limitation is because there's a paragraph in the Century Code, our state laws, that says that's the only way they can raise revenue. So the way to address that, and there are legislators working on it right now. There will be bills introduced. You simply change the wording in that paragraph that says, oh, okay, rural fire can raise revenue by doing X, Y, or Z. You're no longer limiting them to mill levies. So that's the easy answer there. And then the follow-up question might be, well, what if the legislature doesn't pass that because they are known to not, necessarily do the smartest things? Well, I think you can rest assured they will pass it, because keep in mind, if they don't pass that, let's say it differently. We know that the legislature does not easily give up money, give up spending. If they don't pass the things that allow rural fire, rural ambulance, and townships to raise the revenue they need, the state is going to have to replace it. That means there's less spending money for them. So they will pass it. They will allow rural fire, rural ambulance, and townships to raise the money they need. But very good question. All right. Next. Have you heard from any township board members that understand the measure and are in favor of it? I've got to believe there are township board members who are property owners that don't like the never-ending hike in property taxation. Yes, I've heard, yes, absolutely. And even ex-officers of the Township Officers Association that are in favor of the measure. And knowing, of course, you have to have the townships be able to raise money. So knowing that we're going to have the little piece of legislation changing that paragraph introduced and passed, it's very easy. In fact, if anything, this is better for townships, better for rural fire and rural ambulance, especially townships, because this will take the handcuffs off of limiting them so much on how they can raise revenue. Sadly, the Township Officers Association was not interested in working with me to come up with a good option for what that bill might look like. I wanted them to be able to participate. Now, the thing is, it's no big deal, because the way it works in the legislature is you, of course, introduce a bill, and then, for instance, the Township Association will come in and they'll be able to give their input, make amendments, or have legislators make amendments and so forth. So that'll be fine. Next question. The rural public schools can learn to figure out how to spend 20 to 30 K and more, less than 20. Yes. So, yes, they're, I'm not sure exactly where you're going there. Number one, if you're being serious there, we do spend in North Dakota much more per pupil than surrounding states, and we're not doing any better on testing. Arguably, we're spending way too much money on administrators. That's not directly helping the students, and that's a good topic for another time, perhaps. On the other hand, if you're being sarcastic, I'm sorry if I didn't understand you correctly, but the reason I'm not sure if you're being sarcastic is because one of the things that is being told to the rural schools is that they will lose 30 to 40% Yeah, so your question must be legitimate. Anyway, the opposition is telling them, schools, you're going to lose 30 to 40% of your funding, which is a complete lie. So let me explain it. Property taxes fund roughly 30 to 40% of public education, K-12. So what they're saying is that because this measure comes in place and that property tax is no longer levied to the people in your community, you're going to lose that funding. Now, here's where I'll tell you it's an outright lie. And I'm going to address it more. I'm going to post. That's just a flat out lie. The gal who said that is a liar. I don't remember who it is. Doesn't matter. And if I remember rightly, I think she's a nice person. I'm trying to remember who it is. Anyway, the problem is, look, at no matter how great a person you are, if you're intentionally telling a lie, that makes you a liar until you correct it. But here's why it's a lie, because if 30 to 40% of K-12 funding comes from property taxes, and the measure says that the legislature is constitutionally required to replace that money to every political subdivision, which includes the schools, they haven't lost the funding. So what they're doing is, again, fear mongering. Oh, you're going to lose 30 to 40% of your funding. If you lose that much funding, there are going to be rural schools closing all over the state, is what they're saying. They're lying to you people. They're lying to you. They're trying to scare you into voting no. And the reason is because it worked so well in 2012, they just brought out the same playbook. Okay, let's see here. Josie refuses to listen to Bell. I don't know how anyone listens to Bell. There's guys, Steve Bakken's got a program, and I really don't know. But the thing is, I like Todd Mitchell a lot, and it's unfortunate that he's got to be part of it. But nevertheless, Jody Carlson trying so hard to discredit their lies. Yep. Linda, it works because people are complacent and drinking the Kool-Aid of propaganda. They do, but we got to wake up, right? We get when it comes to the voting booth, we get what we deserve as a people. And that's the same with who we elect and so on and so forth. All right. What's baffling is how so many property owners are totally fine with local government being their landlords, the most immoral tax, right up there with death tax. Yes, it is an immoral tax, and you've hit the nail on the head. I call it an immoral tax all the time. It is immoral because property rights are the key, are the foundation of any free society. And we effectively are renting our property, because if you don't pay what they say is due, and you don't have control over how much is due because it's based on valuations, which can be due to fluctuations in the housing market over which you have no control. If you go 2.5 years of not being able to pay their rent, aka property taxes, they start a foreclosure property to take your property away from you, a foreclosure process to take your property away from you. So did you really own it? It is immoral. It absolutely is immoral. It causes people to have to move out of their homes, especially the elderly on fixed incomes. Oh, yes, indeed. So we'll keep strolling here. Educate, educate, educate. That's the only way people understand how they should vote. Yep, we're trying. What we need we need donations, big time donations, because the opposition has money. We, at this point, really don't have money. We need money to spread the word. If we get the word out, it is so easy to dismantle their lies. It is so easy to lift the veil off of people's eyes that they see this actually is really, really good for them and their kids and their grandkids and their friends and their neighbors. If we can just get the message out, this will pass. There's no doubt about it. What would be the WIZ to raise the money for fire? What options would there be? Well, they can, right now we have to look at who are they taxing, right? Because everyone understands that you have to pay for services. Now, we shouldn't have to pay the degree we are for services, especially when the state is sitting on billions and billions and billions of dollars and wasting it and spending like drunken sailors. That's where the relief comes in. That's where we can say the state needs to pay for everything we're currently paying in property tax. Then going forward, we pay for the increases that each of the entities need, the schools, the cities, the counties, and in this case, with the question, the rural fire. So it could be a fee or a tax. Now, I want to make clear, a lot of times I say the word fee, and it's based on the process of how it's applied. A fee is a tax, effectively. So I'm not saying fee to try and make it sound better. I just want to clarify that. So we still will be taxed for the services received. Okay, we're going to get everything we're paying in 2025, keep that in our pockets in 26, 27, 28, forever. But the increasing amount, which happens with inflation, maybe it happens because you've got big spending elected officials, but the increasing amount that's necessary will come from other means. And it would be, say, a fee for rural fire. It would be a rural fire ambulance fee applied to everyone who is a potential recipient of rural fire services. And it could be on a utility, monthly utility. It could be a yearly fee. But keep in mind, that fee that we're talking about is only for the increase on what they are being charged now in property tax. So let's just say that rural fire is their mills come to roughly, let's just say, $100 a person. Well, if overall costs are going up 5%, then the cost of the new fee would be $5 per person instead of going to a property tax of $105. I hope that makes sense. Okay, they will just add a household tax instead. Rob Port. How do you fix stupid? Yeah, Rob Port is just, when I got asked to do this, I did decline it a couple of times. Now I've been working on it for 6 years. I had it ready to go in 2020 and then COVID hit. And then I knew another group was getting involved. Great folks, primarily up in Minot. And they asked me to become involved. I declined, to be honest with you, just because of how incredibly it takes up a person's time and effort and so forth. So I said no a couple of times. And then I also indicated that there are downsides that the people that are working on this should consider. And that's having, if I'm going to be kind of heading things up, there are going to be a lot of personal attacks, and I don't want to hurt the cause. Rob Port is one of those attackers that is going to go after it, is going after it much stronger because I'm involved with it than if I weren't involved with it. But yeah, they will just add a household tax instead. Let me hit something here, Jake. I get told a couple of times. So what we're doing, keep in mind, the state is going to replace everything you're paying in property tax right now, not special assessments, not the tiny amount of property tax that might be going to bonding, but they're going to replace for you in your pocket. You keep every single year the amount you're paying in property tax now. Okay. Going forward, we're going to move from a property tax that's based on valuations you can't control, gets converted from full and true value to assessed value to taxable value. Most people don't understand, and certainly most people don't understand how it gets converted to mill levies, okay? And it's a tax for which you can lose your home. That's not a good tax. We're taking that tax and we're converting it to a municipal operations fee or tax, an infrastructure maintenance tax, whatever it might be. A much better tax, much more transparent. Yes, it's still a tax. Yes, it doesn't stop people from overspending, but it's not based on valuations. It's a more transparent, accessible tax where you can go to the city or county commission meeting, you can voice your opinion, they have to present it to you. It's not mixed up in this whole mill levy crap that people generally stay away from because they don't want to show their ignorance. Because I can tell you, I had no clue, zero clue about how a mill levy is actually constructed until I got deep into this process. I will bet you, there's no way to bet. I can guarantee you that 80% of the state legislators do not know it. And that's not a diss on them, right? They're not maybe involved in the tax committee. And it allegedly is a more local tax, so maybe they don't need to. The thing is, we don't understand it. So we're moving to something that's more transparent, something we can understand. Don't you think those two things are important for one of the three major taxes we pay in our lives? Income tax, sales tax, property tax. So here, what I'm getting to, Jake, is this. When people hear that, we're switching from this property tax that everyone hates to a tax that's more fair or transparent, I get the thing, great. All we're doing is just changing the name of the tax, or all we're doing is just replacing one tax with another tax. It is crazy to me, that attitude. One tax sucks and one tax is reasonable. It's good to move from one tax to another tax. I gave the example that if you had a child who was involved in a serious relationship and that their partner was treating them like absolute crap, disrespectful, horrible, and your child met someone who was kind and showed them respect, and your child came to you and said, hey, mom, dad, I'm seeing where I'm in a bad relationship. I think I'm going to leave this person. I've met this other person. It's so fantastic. Can you imagine telling your child, well, that's stupid. You're just moving from one boyfriend or girlfriend to another boyfriend or girlfriend. Again, people, one is horrible, one is unfair, one is immoral. The other one is a reasonable. We understand we have to pay for the services we receive. We know that. We're not trying to get a free ride. We just want to be fair. We want a say. I had 3 local elected officials across the state, different occasions, different areas, admit to me, I was surprised that they said it out loud, that their number one concern is that people are going to say no to tax increases. Because they understand, these folks understood it. They know that it will be easier for you to say no to tax increases. That's a good thing. If you don't want the service, if you don't want the brand new city hall, whatever it might be, then you should be able to say no. All right. Doesn't the state have a cap on mills? Yes, they do indeed have a cap on mills. It's very interesting because the state pushes the locals into a corner because they get penalized if they try and lower your mills. If they're trying to be frugal and spend less, and they don't charge you, and they want to charge you fewer mills, that local entity very likely is going to lose some of the road funding and some of the school funding. And so they're compelled almost to maximize their mills, or at least to keep them at where they were at. They also can't say we're going to turn a blind eye to increased valuations, because the state forces them to keep your valuations at 95 or in the range of 95% of sales ratio. So there's very little they can do. All right. Today, one of our favorite people, Rob Port, was telling people they won't tax your house, but will tax the size of your property. My response. Well, Rob Port is bringing up one scenario. It's technically possible. It sounds like a very inefficient and a method of taxing that people I don't think are going to like. So in theory, they could do it, but then let's say they do that. If the people in that community say, are you kidding me? You're going to tax me according to the square footage of my house? They'll say no to that, and it won't go through. Again, Rob Port is trying to find the worst possible way of replacing the property tax and saying that's how they're going to do it. But yes, it's possible. And listen, if the people in a community, a city, county, whatever it might be, township want to be taxed on the square footage of their house, they can do that. That's a beautiful thing, is that the locals can tailor it to how they want. This is no longer going to be a one size fits all. Alrighty. Linda says this will also help young people who can barely get into a house. It's true. If you don't have to pay that monthly escrow of she says $300 or more, right? $200, $300, whatever it might be. You don't have to pay that. You're more likely going to be able to afford to pay a mortgage for the first time. Or if you're looking to move up, your family's growing, you're more likely to be able to move into a bigger house, because now that money you had been socking away in escrow every month can now be applied to mortgage, paying for a more expensive house. Oh, okay. That's nothing. Oh, good. We're at the bottom, I think. Let's see here. The reason elected officials are against this is because they are the ones afraid of losing their free ride. They have been able to up taxes year after year without getting consent. Now they'd absolutely. Jake is 100% spot on. There are several reasons that the local elected officials, lobbyists, and special interests are opposed to this. And it's because this takes away some of that party time that they've had as far as a lot of money coming in, not having to accept responsibility for increasing taxes. It goes on and on. He's absolutely right. All right. Okay. So what do you say? We've got 81 folks on, but I don't want to lose people, but we are going to make a little supper. So here's the scoop for you. Here we go. And we will keep talking about it, by the way. And that's what I do when we make the supper. Chili crisp pork udon. Okay. Step number 1, remove the noodles from the refrigerator. Did it. Wash and dry the fresh produce. Okay. Cut the mushrooms into bite-sized pieces. All right. You guys, I'm going to use the cam. Oh, let me get rid of this. Okay. go. Walking down the street. Okay. Let's bring in the food cam. Boom. There we go. Got my shroomies here. Now, these folks at Blue Apron, I think they clean pretty good. Their mushrooms that I like to wipe off. I don't know. I have no knowledge of this, but I know that I just have this idea that mushrooms grow in manure and that maybe there's some manure sitting on these mushrooms. I know it's foolish. You don't have to tell me. I understand, but I wipe them down. Here we go. All right. Oh, this is a good one. This will also help renters. Let's talk about that for a second. One would think that landlords' property expenses increases, halting would halt rent increases. Beth, I love you. You are exactly right. Let me get a cutting board. Okay. Yes, absolutely right. So landlords don't pay property tax. Renters pay property tax. Landlords transfer the money to the state. Absolutely. They transfer it from the rent they receive to the state in the form of property taxes, but the renters pay for it. So I get said a lot that you're living a pipe dream if you think that landlords are going to let the renters be the benefactors of this relief. The thing is that I don't rely on the landlords being generous. I rely on the landlords understanding what they need to do to make a profit. You cannot be a landlord and make money if you don't have tenants. Okay, so what happens when you have an apartment building across the street, your apartment building is full, their apartment building has 6 vacancies, there's no more property tax. You suddenly have huge cash flow as an apartment building owner. That means that you have the ability to do things with that money. One, you can do the improvements, property improvements for your tenants so that they don't move away, so they stay there. That new appliance you promised them 2 years ago, you can now afford it as a landlord. The carpeting that really should have been replaced last year, now you can replace it. You can make the place nicer for the people living there. But that guy across the street who's got 6 vacancies, he's going to use his cash flow to say, you know what, if I decrease the rent, I'll get less cash flow, but I will draw renters to my property. If he does that, and the first guy we're talking about doesn't meet his dropped price, tenants in his building will move across the street to the second guy's building. So there is a downward pressure on rent. Now, if you're not living in a highly competitive market, I'm not saying that rent prices are going to drop. I'm saying there's pressure on the prices. So if you're not in a highly competitive market, the next level of competition would say there aren't going to be increases. So now they have more cash flow. There's no need for them. They don't need to do that. In light of inflation, there would have been pressures to increase the rent year after year after year. Now they don't need to do that. So yes, this helps renters quite a bit. Let's see here. Jody, see you later. Fancy food. Yeah. If you're still in the legislature, wait, let me go to Justin. Landlords won't not try to get more because of this. They wouldn't have as good of an excuse. LOL. Yeah. You're exactly right. I mean, the landlord not going to want to give up free money I hate to say free money because that sounds like someone's giving you money. It's just that the state's not taking it or the county's not taking it because the state is going to pay for it for you. They don't want to, but they need to out of necessity. Keep in mind, this is economics. If you want to make a profit, you have to have tenants. All right, now go to Joe Ball here. If you were still in the legislature on the appropriations committee, what would be the first and second things you would look at decreasing? Oh boy. Okay, I'm just going to say a few things. I'm not saying they're in particular order. So higher education needs to be decreased. We need to get rid of all of the DEI people. We need to get rid of at least half of the vice presidents and vice provosts and all that crap, all these administrators that aren't doing anything, there is a tremendous amount of waste in higher ed. I would also demand a return on investment, as they say, for K-12. And I would find a formula that penalizes for having too many administrators and too high of paid and great number of superintendents and vice superintendents. That's education. I would make all of the government agencies decrease in size. They've grown exponentially over the years. I would stop paying for Minnesota students education in North Dakota for every one student that gets their education covered in Minnesota. You know that that over 50% of students in North Dakota colleges aren't North Dakotans, right? And you guys are subsidizing them. You're subsidizing about 50% of the cost of their education. What else? Oh, there's so much. Well, first off, we'd get rid of the corporate welfare, hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars. There's a clause in our Constitution. I don't know why it hasn't gone to court, or maybe it has. If it has, I don't know why it hasn't become a respected opinion or ruling. It says you can't gift money. You can't buy shares. You can't give money to private individuals or businesses. We do it all the time. The legislature does it all the time. Many hundreds, hear me, many hundreds of millions of dollars of your taxpayer dollars are going to private businesses because legislators think that that is the best way to help the economy, because they're clueless. They don't know that the money, if it stays in your pocket and you spend it how you think is best in North Dakota's economy, helps the economy tremendously more than when they take it and waste it. That's not, I guess, a direct question 1 and 2, but there's a few things. Justin, you think I'm being too optimistic? We're going back to the landlords. I'm just going to show it. I don't think it's optimistic at all. Here, I'm going to give you my example. I own a property downtown. It's a commercial property, and I have small business tenants in my property. I have a gross lease. That means that the businesses in my building pay rent, a flat rent, and out of their rent, I pay property taxes, I pay real estate taxes, and property taxes, I pay insurance for the real estate and common area costs. About half of commercial properties, their tenants, those small businesses, are on what's called a triple net lease. That means the tenant pays their pro rata share of the property taxes. So when this goes away, the tenants, the small businesses who are in the buildings with triple net leases, they're going to see huge relief. The tenants in gross rent are not going to see any relief immediately. So I would love for that cash flow to stay with me. I won't have a choice. If I don't drop, not just not raise the rent, I will need to drop the rent significantly for my tenants. Why? Because if I don't, they will become a tenant in a different building that has a triple net lease, and their net cost of leasing the space will be way lower than staying in my building. So I don't think I'm being optimistic. It's simple laws of economics and business. Good. The assessor said no. Okay, let's do some chopping here. I think it said, big pieces, kind of. I'm guessing that's probably good. Cut the mushrooms into bite-sized pieces. That looks good. In a bowl, combine the soy sauce, soy glaze, vinegar. Okay, so we're going to do that, and then I'm going to answer more questions. All right. What is the effect this measure may have on the North Dakota Legacy Fund? Oh, another good question. You guys are good. I hope all North Dakotans are as good as all of you here. The effect on the North Dakota Legacy Fund. Here is another thing that you may have heard, and that is that we are paying for this with the Legacy Fund. Okay, that's not true. That's false. And they know it's false. They know it's a lie because I have said it over and over and over. It's on our website. There are videos out. We have never, ever once, not once, said that the legacy fund is going to pay for this. Now, what we have said is that the legacy fund interest and earnings will help pay for part of it. Okay, so with that said, if we never touch the principal on the legacy fund, which has over $8 billion by the time we hit next year, it'll probably have $10 billion in it. Right now, it's generating about $500 million per biennium, $250 million per year in interest and earnings. What is more legacy than spending those earnings, that interest, to replace the property tax, which will help future generations of North Dakotans because it's going to make North Dakota's economy soar? Nothing is more legacy than that. So since we're not touching the principal, we're spending the earnings, which they will spend anyway, and they have been for the last couple of sessions. That's going to get spent. So the net effect of this on the legacy fund is zero, nada, zilch. All right, what did we say? Soy glaze, soy sauce. You guys like pork udon? I do like pork udon. I like udon. Soy sauce. See, the hardest part about this is I just have to find where I'm supposed to open it, which is not hard. In other words, there we go. Okay, soy sauce, soy glaze, good. Vinegar, seasoned black vinegar. Sounds good. I love vinegar. I love pickles. I love anything sour. All right, quarter cup of water and up to half the chili crisp. Chili crisp, it just looks like, basically looks like cayenne pepper. Okay, half of that. Half of that. Quarter cup of water. It's a little over, I think. I know it's a measuring cup, so why am I guessing? I don't know. All right, in a bowl. Oh, depending on how spicy. Well, Annie's going to be sharing it with me, so we won't make it too spicy. Then we have to cook the pork and mushrooms in a large pan. Heat a drizzle of olive oil. Add the pork and sauteed aromatics. Okay, let's get that started. Then we'll answer more questions. Okay, got the pan on, got the olive oil drizzled. Let's see, what do we have here? What about out-of-staters buying egg land? Oh, I think that was what Burgum was saying, right? Okay, here's the thing. This really gets traction. Out-of-staters buying egg land. There's a couple things. One, I want you to keep in mind, this isn't a free ride for landowners, right? It's a huge relief for them now, but they will need to pay, landowners will need to pay the to provide the revenue for the increasing needs that the locals have above what the state is replacing. Okay, so that is going to increase each year depending on what that local entity does. So any landowner isn't just getting off scot-free. You're not going to be able to buy land and then just sit on it and not pay anything. You're going to have to pay. It's just that you get right now a huge break. And again, that break lasts forever, but your fees will increase depending on what your locals do. Taxes will increase depending on what your locals do. Okay, so we have that in place. Now, it's right now, any land that comes up for sale, we are in competition with out-of-staters. Residents are going to bid on the property. Out-of-staters are going to bid on the property. Whoever bids the highest is going to get it. We are competing with out-of-staters. Okay, so now when we give this big relief, it's not free land forever. We're giving big tax relief right now. That makes it more enticing to a potential buyer. That buyer could be a resident. That buyer could be a non-resident, an out-of-stater. It is equally enticing to both. There's not some benefit that out-of-staters get that residents don't get. So it makes it a little bit better for both. So we will still be in competition. The out-of-staters don't have a leg up. So the idea that they will buy up all the land doesn't make any sense to me. First off, people are probably not going to want to sell their land as much because it's a much better investment, right? So they're going to keep it. The North Dakotans that own it are going to keep it. Secondly, when land does come up for sale, it will be enticing to both. We're on the same playing field after this passes as we are now. I don't claim to be an expert on egg land sales, right? But I have asked multiple times. Whoa, too hot. Jeez. I have asked many people if they could, please explain to me how this is going to benefit out-of-staters more than residents. And I have to assume that they don't have an answer because no one has told me. Now, I'm open to learning. I would like to know. Until I hear otherwise, that's my take on it. Sorry, I'm just tuning in. Not sure what has been asked or not. I didn't want to miss the chance to ask. Yeah, feel free. I have had small town people wondering about the out-of-state hunters that own hunting lodges, homes in small towns. Will they still be paying property taxes which help the small towns? Okay. They will not be paying the property taxes that are levied right now. The state will be paying that amount. So keep in mind, when we talk about this property tax going away, the towns are not losing the funding. The source of the funding is changing. So the property taxes that are helping small towns will continue to be there. It will be replaced by the state. And then when the small towns need more money above the amount that the state replaces every year because of inflation or whatever else, they will then tax the people of that small town, including the hunters that live out of state. I presume that the hunters are helping the small town's economy too when they come. I don't know. But that's the story there. So when we talk about how this affects small towns, there is no detrimental effect. Please understand, this does not hurt small towns. They get every bit as much money as they're getting now from the state, and they will have more control on how they can raise revenue that they need in the future. And they will get that revenue from the same people they're getting it now, but it will only be with a more fair and more transparent tax. So this does not hurt small towns. All right. I made my pan way too hot, so I got to break up some of this pork here. What else we got here? How is the NDFA funded? Would this affect them and fire training? Again, the state has no business in any budget of any local entity at all. So however they're being funded, they would continue to be funded. Again, any monies coming into the locals now will continue to come in from the state. They will have the ability, what they're going to do is budget the way they always have. So whoever is responsible for the budget of the NDFA will take into consideration the NDFA's needs, as well as every other organization, as well as the cost of snow removal, as well as the cost of gravel, as well as the cost of everything. And they will make their budget every year like they always do. So what do now? They determine their budget. They figure out the money they need to pay for that budget. Then they recognize, okay, this is how much money we get from other sources, whether it's from the state, whether it's a sales tax, whether it's a fee, whatever it might be. We get this much money. We need this much money. We get this much money from other sources. And so we need this much money from property tax. And then they levy their property tax. They're going to do the same thing. They're going to determine their budget. And then they're going to say, okay, same as before. How much do we get from sales tax, from fees, from whatever else? That leaves this much left. Now, how much are we getting from the state to replace the property taxes we have now? Well, that's almost all of it there. So you have this much left over. Then you go and say, okay, we're applying this tax in this manner, according to whatever they want, within reason, however they see best to tax the people who live in their communities to pay for the services they receive. So that's, whatever organization, whatever agency, whatever department, whatever subdivision, the answer is the same. There is no loss of funding. There's no loss of funding. I have yet to have the opposition tell me, how is there a loss of funding? There's no loss of funding. The state replaces everything now. That's inarguable. It'll be in the Constitution. And the locals can raise the taxes they need. They're just different, more fair, more transparent taxes. So there's no loss of funding for anything. Now, if the people in the community say no to something, there could be loss of funding. That's up to the people in the community. Got to get a little salt on this pork. A little pepper. Okay, get that pork cooking up again. My pan was too hot, now it's good. All right, what else we have here? If this passes, the first year fees for fire ambulance schools would be set by who? Do you expect any city residents to vote yes on asking to increase or set up new fees for a new city hall, lockers, new bunker? Okay, so yes, I do think they will. Now, and that's what I got from the local elected officials, is they're going to vote no on everything. The attitude of the people is basically like a vote no, because they're tired of it. They're tired of the state wasting billions of dollars. They're tired of feeling like they have no voice. They're tired of feeling fleeced. They're tired of not agreeing with the valuations of their houses. They're tired of trying to live within this world of inflation. They're tired of all of it. So they have a very strong no attitude. I agree. Now, fast forward when this passes and they now keep everything they're paying for property tax in their pocket. They now have more control and more one-on-one with their local elected officials. And if the local elected officials say, look, gravel went up 20%. If you want roads, we have to increase a tax or a fee. People are going to say yes. Now, let's say there's a town, they say no to everything. Yeah, the town's going to go to hell. I just don't see that happening. I think that's probably about the furthest possible thing that could happen. Speaking of mushrooms, bad politicians tend to treat their constituents like mushrooms. Yes, they do. All right. For new people, can you just explain the basics of where the revenue they need will come from for schools and other things? Government officials are saying that North Dakota will run out of money in 5 years. That's a great question. All right. One of the things that they're saying is that they're going to run out of money in 8 years, and what they're doing is continuing the lie that we are expecting the legacy fund is going to pay for this. There's like $8-9 billion in the legacy fund. It's going to cost $1 billion per year to replace property taxes, and so they say it's going to run out. The legacy fund will run out. We are not using the legacy fund. We're using the earnings from the legacy fund to pay for a small part of it. The state is not going to run out of money. The state spends $19 billion in 2 years. Let me click this off here. $19 billion in 2 years. Our state spending has increased on a per capita basis more than any other state. Do you know that over the last 12 years, if you look at the percentage of increase in spending of all of the other states combined, compare it to North Dakota. North Dakota's increase in spending percentage is double the amount of all the other states combined. We are spending like drunken sailors. You know who's telling you that we're not? Legislators, lobbyists, and special interests. We are overspending. Let's put this into perspective. At the end of the last biennium, they found out we ended up having $3 billion more money come in than they were expecting. Okay. At the time that they were in session, it was $2.5 billion. Do you know what they did when they learned almost at the end of session that there was going to be $2.5 billion left over? They scrambled. They put about 75 amendments on the last bill of the session, the biggest spending bill. It's kind of like the U.S. Congress omnibus bill. They figured out ways to spend your money. That's what they do. Hundreds and hundreds of millions of dollars going to private businesses. So here's how we pay for it. Let me stir. Here's how we pay for it, and here's why this isn't going to cause North Dakota to run out of money at all. Number one, this is going to cost $1 billion per year to replace. The state is going to have to replace $1 billion per year to keep all of the local subdivisions whole so that they have no loss of funding. The state has no say in it. The state has no strings that they can attach. The Constitution will require them to replace that amount, period. There is no coming to beg Bismarck for money. That's all a lie. There'd be no reason to come to Bismarck. There's no purpose in it. That's a lie perpetrated by the opposition to scare you, convince you to vote against your own best interests. So at the end of this biennium, there will be approximately $1.2 billion of excess revenue they didn't know was coming in, because if they knew it was coming in, they would have appropriated it, meaning they would have planned on spending it, obligated it to being spent. But they didn't, because they didn't know it's coming in. So when they come into session in January, they will realize they're going to have over $1 billion of excess money. That should be applied to the property tax replacement. Okay, so you take 600, half of that per year, 600 million of that will go towards the $1 billion replacement. Then we talked about the legacy fund. The legacy fund gets 500 million per biennium, 250 million per year. So take 200 million of the interest, just the interest on the legacy fund, apply it to property tax replacement. Now you're up to 800 million. Then what you do is you get those fools that have been elected to the legislature who are spending your taxpayer dollars on private businesses for corporate welfare and subsidies, and you get them to maybe lessen that just a little bit. And instead of spending about 800 million on it, maybe they can spend half that much. So you take 200 million that they have been handing out to private businesses of your money, and you apply that. So you have 600, 200, 200, that's $1 billion. The property tax replacement is done without, not only is the state not going to run out of money, there are no services lost. There's no contraction of the agencies which are bloated and should be contracted. There is no firing of any employees. And believe me, look at DEI at the colleges, they should be fired or let go, whatever. There's no loss of funding to the locals. There's no increase in taxes. You'll hear the legislature, well, we're going to have to increase your sales tax and your income tax. Liar. You're trying to scare the people once again. None of that needs to happen. This gets replaced so easily. North Dakota is the only state that can do this. The only state that can do this. Many other states are looking at eliminating the property tax because they understand it's an immoral tax, but they are willing to do it. Even though they don't have the state spending like drunken sailors like we do that can replace it, they still want it gone, and they are agreeing to have other taxes compensate and to be increased to replace the property tax. That's how much they hate it. We in North Dakota don't even have that problem. The state can replace it. You will not notice anything on a state level when the state replaces this. Instead of a $20 billion forecast, they're looking at an $18 billion forecast because $2 billion needs to be replacing the property tax that you and I pay. That's basically like saying, oh my gosh, you're kidding me. We have to go back to our spending levels of 4 years ago? That's what it means. Spending levels to a level which is already extraordinarily high in excessive spending. So that's my long and passionate answer to this concept that the state's going to run out of money. Not true. All right, I think I got to put in the aromatics. Let's go back to food cam. Aromatics, doesn't that look interesting? East Asian style sauteed aromatics. Okay, let's see here. They say the legacy fund is for future generations, but if they don't take care of the generation now, they don't. Yeah, agreed. Absolutely agree. What about the opposition stating probably that out-of-state investors will come and purchase land and not have to pay a thing to the state? Well, you probably were on when I talked about it, but number one, they will have to pay because we're getting a huge relief now. Everything we're paying now is going to be replaced by the state, but the locals will be increasing the fees and taxes that they need for future needs that go beyond what the state is replacing. So nobody's getting a free ride. No out-of-staters are getting a free ride. Let me get this in. Okay. Okay, got the aromatics in. I need to stir a little bit. Got my pork browned nicely. I presume the aromatics are probably, what, garlic, ginger, onion. Looks more like chives here, maybe. Or maybe, not leeks. I don't know, I'm forgetting what the other thing is. All right, let's answer another question. Pedal, no slowing down, good feelings about November 5th. Well, Jamie, thank you. Jamie's given me compliments. Where did I go? Okay, excuse me. What about opposition? Oh, we just did that, right? Sorry. That's what I thought. Just needs to be able to. Yes, we do need to be able to relay all of these things. There are so many scare tactics. I'm glad you guys are here and getting informed so you can tell people. And really, I hope this is so important. There's 88 people. There were 90 some people before. People come and go. That's why I don't mind repeating the message a little bit. But listen, if nobody goes and spreads the message, we're helping inform 89 people. You got to go out. You got to talk to people. You have to reinforce there is no loss of funding. Eliminating the property tax doesn't decrease or eliminate funding. It changes the source of funding. No local is going without funding. No school is going without funding. No ambulance or rural district is going without funding. Everyone is getting the funding. Let me just double check here. Pork, seasoned with salt and pepper did. Cook stirring frequently. Breaking the meat apart did. 4 to 5 minutes until lightly browned. Kind of did that already. So we'll just do it for another minute or two. Plus I'm cooking it too high again, I think. Oh gosh, it smells so good. It smells so good. That's why they call it aromatics. Assessment value jump every time we improve a property. We get punished for taking care and cleaning up properties. I know, isn't that a perverse incentive? It's sad that you fixing up places and excites assessors to slam you. Right, that's wrong. That is just wrong, and that's what this measure takes care of that. No more of that. Let's see, Gordy, address the question of local governments losing local control because it's not in the measure. Yes. So once again, locals do not lose any local control. I challenge and have challenged multiple occasions the opposition to explain how it is that locals lose control. They lie over and over and over again. I just heard it, that you're going to, some small town or whatever is going to have to go to Bismarck and beg for money, and that it's going to be unfair because Fargo has more influence and they're going to get more money at the expense of smaller towns. Lie, 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 lie. Number one, the state must replace to every subdivision the amount that they levied in 2024, which is what they got in 2025. The state must replace that. There are no strings attached. The state can't say no. The state can't do anything. The state is not in anybody's budget. The state will not need to spend, meaning the legislature will not need to spend more than a minute, because that amount that they need to replace is listed in the tax commissioner's booklet on the statistical report of property tax. No control is lost there. Can we agree to that? The state must replace that money. The locals make their budgets the way they want. They spend the money the way they want. Where is local control lost with that? Second part, the amount that locals need above the amount that the state is replacing, they are in control of. They have actually more control when this passes than they do now. Do you know that there are pages and pages and pages of restrictions in the Century Code of restrictions on how the locals can do property tax? They are in a box. This opens up opportunity for them to do not a one-size-fits-all, but a tailored approach to do what's best for the people who live in their community. No local control. I challenge you. Tell me, anybody. Chad Oban, you're the chair of the opposition of Keep It Local. Matt Gardner, you're the exec director of League of Cities. Aaron Burst, you're the head dude for Association of Counties. Can you guys tell me? Give me one concrete example how we lose local control. You can't do it. You cannot do it. I'm coming out here so forcefully. You can make me look like a fool if you just come out and tell us, how do you lose local control? Make me the fool. Do it. Oh one thing I can't tolerate. I tolerate a difference of opinion. If you believe in something that's completely different than what I believe, I still respect you. When you're just an outright liar, I don't respect that. I do not respect that one bit. Oh, okay. I get worked up. Who decides which corporations get the money, or how is it decided? No corporations get money. Everyone who pays property tax no longer has to pay that property tax. Nobody decides that. There is nobody making the decision. The measure says the state must replace property tax that's levied right now. That means whoever paid property tax no longer has to pay that property tax. Nobody's making the decisions. There's no subjectivity. There's no favoritism. Oh, all right. Getting a little browning going on. Remember I said this is supposed to be a 15-minute meal. Okay, we got this. Add the mushroom pieces. Well, that's easy enough. Where's my food cam? There we go. Cook those mushrooms down a little bit. So Gordy, good question, man. How do we lose local control? I don't know, man. You tell me. You guys send this to the opposition. Show me the fool that you say I am. How do we lose local control? Come on, man. You just keep repeating your lies and hope people believe you, and that's going to do the job. How about showing the people of North Dakota respect? Come out and debate your ideas. I will debate, except on the Rob Port show, whatever he calls it. Aside from that idiot, I will debate Chad, Aaron, Matt, anybody else. But Bochenski, former mayor of Minot, I think is probably not afraid to debate. I'll debate anyone, because when you're trying to throw out scare tactics and misrepresentations and lies, it's really hard to defend that. When you're just telling the straight out forward truth, very easy to defend that. I will debate any of those guys. I put them all together. Let them be a team. Let them support each other. They're going to desperately need to support each other to debate. We'll have a debate anywhere, anytime. Okay? Let's get this out. If you respect the people of North Dakota, you'll do a debate. You'll do a debate, man. It happened in 2012. You're not chicken now, are you? Come on, man. Let's have a debate. You tell those lies that you've been telling the people, you tell them to the people in a debate that's publicly aired, that I have a chance to come back and tell the truth, to put you on the defensive so that you have to be held accountable to the lies that you tell. Let's have a debate. Come on, Chad Oban. Are you afraid? Are there any states that have no property tax that run efficiently? There are no states that have no property tax. We would be the first one. Can you imagine that? North Dakota being first at something amazing and awesome. You might call that legendary. What do North Dakotans pay per year in property taxes? That's a good question. So the Legislative Council has said that they pay currently, or let's see, last year, I think $1.16 billion per year. It comes out to be about $1.2 billion per year that the state will have to replace. However, that doesn't include the tax credits that are already out there. So that makes it $1.1 billion per year that the state will have to replace. And then there are legislators that are going to put in bills. I don't want to get into the wonky details, but it will change some of the ad valorem or centrally assessed properties like pipelines and airports, and put them into an in lieu of category, so that money still comes into the state. So it's $1 billion per year that the state would need to replace. Mushrooms are cooked down. Next on the list, using your hands, carefully separate the noodles. Oh, food cam. And I know I just touched my hair, but we're the only ones eating it. These are already nicely separated because they're at room temp. Let's dump those in. Okay, instructions. Oh, noodles, add the noodles, spinach, and sauce. Oh, yep. Do it carefully as the liquid may splatter. Cook, stirring frequently 1 to 2 minutes. That's it. Like I say, man, this is the easiest dish ever. Got my beautiful packet of spinach. Let's see. Oops. What am I doing wrong? Okay, talk about the sales tax increase for Burleigh County. That passed in the primary residence voted increase. Their own sales tax again. Is that increase meant to offset the supposed loss of revenue if the property tax measure passes? That pretty sure that's what. No, it's not. There is no loss of revenue. I can't say that often enough. There is no loss of revenue if the property tax measure passes. Period. Okay, please repeat that after me. There is no loss of revenue, no loss of funding to any political subdivision, city, county, township, school district, anything when this measure passes. What they did, basically what they did is the opposite. If this doesn't pass, they did something that will hopefully help themselves and convert some of the property tax revenue into sales tax revenue. That's what they chose to do. I got too small of a pan. And furthermore, I believe that they worded the measure so that if this does pass, then I think that that goes away, or anyway, they're not disadvantaged, or at least that was their intent, to not be disadvantaged if the measure passes. I don't think there was a state that, nope, there hasn't been any state with no property tax. North Dakota, ND United posts like 5 times a day about this measure. They really don't want to lose their cash cow. You got that right, Christy. Oh yeah, throw Nick Archuleta in the mix of my challenge. Nick, Matt, Aaron, Chad, you guys all come together. You can have team big money, and I will be team people, and we'll debate anywhere, anytime, not on Rob Port's show, period. Anybody who reads Rob Port, I'm sorry, you're losing IQ points. Ours over, yep. You'll never own your land. That is right. The state, if the government can take it away, you don't own it. Bruce, you are welcome. If this doesn't pass, they'll keep raising taxes. Yep. Think you can't afford groceries now? Exactly. And don't think inflation is over, peeps. It's coming down. But, and you know, they just said today, 2.9 year-over-year % increase, as though that's a good thing. Here's why it's a bad thing, because it's 2.9% on top of the 9% or whatever it was before. So if we were trying to regain ground, it would actually be negative inflation. But it's not. It's basically 3% on top of the 9%, which was on top of the 5%, which was on top of the whatever. So, and we're still spending like crazy. We're still printing money like crazy. So if you think inflation is over, think again. This needs to pass. Oh, I've got a crap show here. I've got spinach flying everywhere. I need it to wilt in a major fashion very quickly. Okay. I should have a stove cam, right? Okay. We're going to get through this, and then I'm going to eat. Hey, listen, Faith says, thank you for calling out Aaron Burst. I want to say this, Aaron, more than any of them, has been abundantly fair and forthright. I disagree with him. His concerns are more nebulous, and they're like what ifs. I respect Aaron, and I just want to make that clear. But still, he's fronting for an organization that absolutely does not want to see this pass, and they think that it's better for the state to have billions and billions of extra dollars and not you and me. We pay more than we did in San Diego. North Dakota is in the upper half of property taxes, despite all of the relief that we supposedly got. How about this? The amount of property tax relief that the legislature allegedly has given amounts to 42%. 42%. This is what Legislative Counsel says, not me. And so people like the former Senator and Senate Majority Leader Rich Wardner will tell you, if we didn't do that, your property taxes would be 42% higher. Do you know that then what the state is currently paying for your property tax buy downs plus what you are paying together is really truly the property tax? We're the number one in the nation. You tell me that that's not broken. All right. Politicians have zero guilt in doing it, making money on the side. That's true for a few. Most politicians don't actually understand it. That's the fact. They actually believe that it's good for the economy that they're taking your tax dollars and giving it to private businesses. They really believe that. A debate would be stellar. Sandy Wilson Volkman. Okay, being a first day with no property taxes. Well, let's see what this is. And then probably end it up here. Seems like that'd be a positive thing to draw more businesses. Yes, Patrick, you're exactly right. We didn't even touch on that. We would become the first and only state with no property tax. We become the place where young families want to move when they're looking at where they want to move to from places like California and New Jersey and New York and Illinois with crazy high property taxes. We will have young families coming, good young families coming. We will have businesses coming. Businesses will be incentivized. Think about this. Even the folks in all these organizations that are opposed to it, they love the idea of giving 5, 10, 15-year property tax breaks to businesses because they say, and they have said many, many times, doing that incentivizes them to come to North Dakota. If that's true, what if we actually got rid of property tax at this level forever? You think that's not going to be a huge incentive? Businesses will come. This will take care of economic diversification that the legislature has been trying to do. Would there be an inflation guard included in what the state is replacing? Okay, good question, because we got to get clarification here. The state is replacing a flat amount. It's the amount that the locals are getting in 2025, okay? There's no inflation guard. There doesn't need to be an inflation guard because the state is replacing a flat amount, and the locals, the cities, counties, and schools, everything they need more than that for inflation, for anything, they're going to raise with other taxes and fees. So inflation concerns, there are no concerns. I mean, as far as how we're going to deal with it, we're going to come with the money. The locals are going to be addressing the needs that you may see with inflation. The state has no business with that. They're replacing a flat known amount, and we will know the amount at the end of this year exactly. We already know that it's going to be in the vicinity of $1 billion. It's a flat amount every year. Because the locals have not lost control, they're in charge of their budgets, they're in charge of raising the revenue. An inflation guard is unnecessary. An inflation guard would be necessary if the state was responsible for replacing all of the spending, in which case the locals would lose control. And that's what a lot of the opposition is saying. I hope I made that clear. Oh. Let's add the sauce. Gonna really mix it up. Should have a whisk, I suppose. Ooh, yeah. Nice little sashi. Oh my gosh. There, I did. Oh, you probably didn't see it. I was trying to double whisk it. Mm-hmm. It's looking good. Let's cook it up just a little bit more. Okay. And then I'm just going to put it into a bowl of sorts and add some more chili crisp seasoning onto it to make it spicier. I'm going to answer just a couple more questions and then we got to go. I think we're almost done. I'm going to stop right here. Marcella Berthier, I'm stopping with you. So here we are. Tina, your volunteers at Gateway Mall were fantastic. Yeah, they were. They really are good folks. We had 250 people get signatures. I have people saying, "Oh, this measure is being pushed by out-of-state rich people." We have not got one out-of-state dollar, I don't think, anyway. If it is, it's a very tiny amount. And it's all local people. Local grassroots people are the only people that have been pushing this. Let me remove that, Cam. You should do a live on X. Yeah, I think I might be, because I'm on StreamYard and this is supposed to go to my X. I don't know. Someone check it out. Go to X, Dr. Rick Becker. Hopefully it's live. I don't know. But yeah, you're right. I need to learn about that, Leanne. Sandy, trusting North Dakota. I hope North Dakotans will be more aware and stop this direction it's headed. Yes. Listen, they fooled us. They lied to us and they fooled us. They promised us reform and relief in 2012 when the last measure was up. They promised those things. They didn't deliver. They lied. Okay. Fool us once. Shame on you. They're trying to fool us again, people. If we are fooled again, shame on us. We deserve it. And never, ever again should the people complain about property tax. Ever. All right. Folks. Oh, wait. I gotta finish it out. We gotta have the big finish, right? La 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 la. Okay, I've got my pork udon noodles. I'm dishing it up, and then I am setting you free, casting you free. And I know someone's going to give Chad Oban and Nick Archuleta the challenge, right? I hope you do. Anywhere, anytime, not on the One Blogger's website. Anywhere, anytime, anywhere, anytime. Why? Not because I'm some crazy good debater, but because I have the truth on my side, and that's all I need. All right, folks. Here it is. Let's get some. Oh, wait. Food cam. Let's get rid of this. Let's add this. Okay. Let's get rid of. Add back to stage, I guess. Oh, wait. Maybe I can do this. Nope. All right. So here we go. Does that look good? It doesn't look good on the camera. Oh, it's going to be spicy. All right. It smells super good. I'm going to eat now. Thank you guys for hanging with me. I hope a lot of questions were answered. And please, 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 please spread the word. Just tell people what you've heard here. If you go to endpropertytax.com, everything I've been talking about is on the website. It's been there for a year. We added some new stuff just yesterday, I think. There's a new on the About page, there's a new document called Measure 4 Explained. Take a look at it. A lot of questions are answered there. There's a frequently asked questions page. A lot of questions are answered there. So yeah, check it out. Spread the word. Okay, let's do something good for North Dakota. See you later.